Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself sitting there, staring at your phone, wondering why he suddenly stopped putting in effort? Like 1 minute he's all into you, texting you good morning, making plans, hyping you up, and the next, cold, distant, dry. And you're left asking yourself, did I do something wrong? You didn't. But I know that feeling, that pit in your stomach when someone you cared about starts treating you like you're just an option, like you're convenient when it works for them, but disposable when it doesn't. And you start questioning yourself. Maybe I was too available. Maybe I should have waited to reply. Maybe if I just stay chill and give it time, he'll come back. But deep down, you already know what's up. You feel it. You know you've been giving more than you're getting. You know you've been compromising your peace to accommodate someone who isn't even meeting you halfway. And yet here you are, still holding on to crumbs, hoping they eventually turn into a full meal. Let me tell you this with love. You are not crazy for wanting to be prioritized. You are not too much for needing consistency. You are not overreacting for expecting someone to treat you the way you treat them. Sis, you're just tired of being treated like a backup plan when you've been showing up as the whole package. And here's the truth no one tells you. The moment you feel like an option is the moment you need to remember who the prize is. You. You are not auditioning for a role in anyone's life. You are the standard. You are the experience. But you can't expect someone to see your worth if you keep handing them discounts. So today, we're flipping the script. No more chasing, no more wondering, no more maybe he just needs time. Nah, now it's his turn to feel what it's like to lose access to a woman who would have gone to war for him. And if you're ready to stop being treated like an option and start acting like the prize, stay with me, because this is your turning point. Let's take a breath here. Because before we talk about how to take your power back, we need to talk about how you even ended up here. And I want to say this up front. It's not your fault. Seriously. The way you loved, the way you showed up, the way you gave, that came from a real, beautiful place. And even though it might not have been returned the way you deserved, it doesn't mean you were wrong for loving the way you did. See, a lot of women, especially strong, nurturing ones, fall into this trap. You lead with your heart. You care deeply, and when someone gives you just enough attention, just enough affection, you start to believe in the potential instead of the reality. You cling to the version of him he showed you in the beginning, that charming, consistent, present version, hoping it'll come back if you just hold on a little longer, try a little harder, love a little deeper. But what really happened is this: you were consistent with someone who was inconsistent. You were honest with someone who was vague. You were ready, and he was just available. That's the difference. You weren't too much, he was too little, but you kept trying to adjust yourself to fit inside a space that was never meant to hold all of you. You got here because you were conditioned to believe that your worth comes from being chosen, that if someone picks you, it means you're enough. But here's the truth: you've always been enough, even when someone didn't have the capacity to see it. You were never supposed to convince someone to value you. You were supposed to know your value so well that if they didn't, it was automatic, access denied. But that's not how we're taught to love, right? We're taught to compromise, to wait, to be patient. And while those things matter in healthy relationships, what happens when the compromise turns into self-abandonment? When the patience turns into tolerating emotional breadcrumbs? When you wait so long for someone to meet your needs that you forget what your needs even are? You got here because you believed this was love. And in your mind, love meant effort, loyalty, staying, fighting for it. But love should never feel like proving your worth to someone who benefits from you doubting it. You've been stuck in a pattern, not because you're weak, but because you're hopeful. You've seen the best in someone and thought, if I just love them a little more, maybe they'll see it too. And here's where the shift happens. It's okay to be the one who gave more. It's okay to have loved fully. That doesn't make you foolish. It makes you real. But going forward, your love has to come with boundaries, with discernment, with standards. Because the truth is, the people who are meant for you won't need to be chased, fixed, or constantly reminded how to treat you. So if you're sitting there wondering, why do I always end up in this position? It's not because you're broken, it's because you've been loving from a place of survival instead of a place of worth. That ends today. The moment you realize that how someone treats you is a reflection of them, not you, that's the moment you start to break the cycle. You didn't end up here because you're unlovable. You ended up here because you kept loving people who weren't ready for you, and from this point forward, you're not shrinking to be digestible. You're not settling to avoid being alone. You're not carrying the emotional weight of two people. Now that you know it's time to choose. Here's the part no one really talks about. The moment you decide to pull back, truly pull back, the energy shifts. Not just in the dynamic with him, but within you. Because for the first time in a long time, you're no longer moving from desperation, confusion, or fear of losing him. You're moving from clarity, from strength, from self-respect. And let me be clear, pulling back isn't the same as playing games. This isn't about trying to manipulate or make him chase you. This is about redirecting your energy back to you. It's choosing silence over begging, peace over proving, distance over self-abandonment. When you pull back, you stop chasing his potential. You stop overthinking his mixed signals. You stop waiting on the bare minimum and calling it effort. And that shift, that's powerful. Because the same woman who used to overextend, overgive, and over-apologize, she's gone. In her place stands a woman who is done negotiating her worth. At first, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to want to reach out. You're going to wonder if he notices, if he cares, if he's thinking about you. But that's the detox. You're unlearning the habit of giving your love to someone who didn't handle it with care. And the discomfort? That's not weakness. It's growth. You're breaking a pattern. And here's what's wild. He will feel it. Maybe not right away, but he will. Because when a woman who always made herself available suddenly goes quiet, it speaks volumes. When you stop showing up for someone who took you for granted, they start to notice the silence. And silence can be deafening, especially to a man who got comfortable with your constant presence. He'll wonder why you stopped checking in, why your name isn't popping up on his phone anymore, why the energy shifted. And whether he says it or not, that absence creates space for realization, for reflection, and sometimes even regret. But whether he comes back or not, that's not even the point. Because this isn't about punishing him. This is about reclaiming yourself. The moment you stop pouring into someone who only took, you begin pouring into your own healing. You start seeing yourself through a new lens, not as someone who's hard to love, but as someone who is no longer willing to beg for what should be freely given. You get your time back, your emotional energy, your peace. You remember what it feels like to wake up and not immediately check your phone for his name, to eat, breathe, sleep, and exist without waiting for a response that never came fast enough. You start to fall back in love, not with him, but with you. And here's where the real power lies. When you pull back, you're not just shifting the dynamic, you're changing the story. You're no longer the girl waiting to be chosen. You're the woman who chooses herself. You're no longer asking, why doesn't he want me? You're asking, why did I ever settle for so little when I give so much? And let me tell you something. The version of you that comes out on the other side of this, she's magnetic. She doesn't chase. She attracts. She doesn't tolerate. She commands. Because when a woman reclaims her energy, that's when she becomes unreachable to anything less than she deserves. So if you're in that in-between space right now, where you're pulling back, but it still hurts, stay there, keep going. That discomfort, that's your rebirth, that's your glow up in progress. You're not losing anything, you're gaining. Let's talk about the power of no contact. Not let me ignore him to see if he notices. Not I'll wait for him to text first, but I'll still stalk his socials. I mean real, intentional, boundary-driven no contact. The kind that protects your peace, accelerates your healing, and puts your power back where it belongs, in your hands. Because here's the thing. Silence is not weakness. Distance is not bitterness. No contact isn't about getting back at him, it's about getting back to you. When you go no contact, you're not just cutting communication, you're cutting the emotional cord that's been draining you. You're saying, I refuse to keep participating in something that confuses me, hurts me, or keeps me stuck. And that is powerful. At first, it will feel like withdrawal, especially if you were used to him being a part of your daily routine. You'll reach for your phone out of habit. You'll hear a song that reminds you of him. You'll remember something you wanted to tell him. And in that moment, you'll be tempted to break it, to send the hey text, to accidentally watch his story, to check if he's still following you. But I want you to pause, because every time you don't reach out, you're building a new version of yourself. One that doesn't depend on someone else's attention to feel whole. One that doesn't need closure from someone who couldn't give you clarity in the first place. And let's talk about what no contact does on his side. When a woman who was once available, nurturing, forgiving, suddenly becomes silent, it's a wake-up call. Men are not used to silence from a woman who once cared deeply. They're used to second chances, long paragraphs, late-night calls, and emotional labor they never earned. When that stops, the silence speaks for you. It says, I'm not angry, I'm just done. It says, you no longer have access to me, not because I hate you, but because I finally love me. That's when he starts to feel it. The absence, the weight of what he lost, not because you're playing games, but because he took for granted something real, and now it's gone. But the biggest advantage of no contact isn't about what he feels. It's about what you finally get to feel: clarity, peace, and emotional detox. Every day you hold that boundary, you remember who you were before the heartbreak. You get to hear your own voice again, not the one that was constantly questioning if you were enough. You'll notice your energy starts to come back. Your joy returns in pieces. You'll laugh again. You'll get inspired again. You'll realize that life is still full of magic even without him in it. And one day, without even trying, you'll think about him and feel nothing. That's when you'll know that no contact wasn't about making him suffer. It was about setting yourself free. This isn't about silence for revenge. It's about silence for recovery, for protection, for growth. Because not everyone deserves access to your softness, your presence, your energy. And when you go no contact, you send a very clear message. Not to him, but to yourself. I choose me this time. So if you're deep in the no contact phase right now, keep going. Don't break it. Don't chase. Don't check. He knows what he did. He's feeling it in ways he'll never admit out loud. And even if he doesn't, that's not your problem anymore. Because the version of you who's committed to her healing, she's not looking back. Now that you've gone no contact, you're probably facing the hardest part. Not the silence between you and him, but the noise inside your own mind. The thoughts that whisper, what if I was the problem? What if he changes for someone else? What if I just waited a little longer? That's why this next step is so important, rewiring your mindset. See, most of us were taught to chase love. We were conditioned, sometimes from childhood, to associate love with proving, earning, and fixing. If you grew up learning that love had to be fought for, that love came with conditions, or that your worth was tied to someone else's approval, then it makes sense why letting go feels so unnatural. But just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's healthy. And just because someone didn't love you right doesn't mean you're unlovable. Rewiring your mindset starts with one core belief. You are not hard to love. Read that again. You are not too emotional, too needy, too intense, too difficult. You are not the reason he couldn't show up. He is. Because the right person won't be intimidated by your standards. They'll be inspired by them. But the wrong one, the one who benefits from your insecurities, he'll keep you in a loop of questioning yourself until you finally break free. So here's where the real work begins. Every time that old thought creeps in, the one that says, maybe if I looked different, maybe if I didn't catch feelings, maybe if I didn't care so much, you replace it actively, consistently, relentlessly. You say, no, I did my best with what I knew. I showed up with love. I communicated, I cared. That is not a weakness. And let's talk about guilt, because that's part of the rewiring too. Guilt will try to trick you into thinking you walked away too soon or gave up on someone who was just struggling. But ask yourself this: who was there for you when you were struggling in that relationship? Who supported you emotionally while you carried the entire connection? You're allowed to choose yourself without explaining why. You're allowed to leave when love stops feeling safe, supportive, and reciprocal. That's not giving up, that's growing up. That's emotional maturity. That's self-respect. Another important mindset shift: stop romanticizing potential. You didn't fall in love with him, you fell in love with the idea of him. You fell for his words, not his actions. You loved the version he showed in the beginning, not the version who left you confused, anxious, or second-guessing yourself. Real love doesn't play hide and seek. Real love doesn't need to be begged for. And finally, stop believing that being alone means being lonely. Some of your most powerful healing will happen in solitude. When you stop filling the silence with distractions or rebounds, you make space to hear you. You learn to validate your own emotions, regulate your own energy, and build a relationship with yourself that no one can take away. Rewiring your mindset means choosing new thoughts, even when the old ones feel louder. It means making your peace more important than their potential. It means loving yourself so deeply that you never again settle for someone who makes you doubt that love. So take this time not just to get over him, but to get back to you. Unlearn the patterns, break the beliefs, rebuild from the inside, because the glow up isn't just about looking better, knowing better. And trust me, the version of you on the other side of this mindset shift, she's not bitter. She's just unavailable to anyone who can't love her the way she now loves herself. There comes a moment, sometimes weeks later, sometimes months, when he starts to notice. The silence hits him. The lack of your presence, your energy, your consistent effort, it starts to echo. He scrolls through old texts, sees a memory pop up, hears your favorite song. And for the first time, he feels it. The loss. Not just the loss of a girl who used to text first, or the one who always forgave, or the one who stayed up late trying to fix things. He feels the loss of someone who brought peace into his life, who gave depth, consistency, genuine care. And suddenly it hits him. That kind of love doesn't come around twice. He might reach out with something casual, or hey, hope you're good. Or maybe he watches your story after weeks of ghosting. He might not say it outright, but the energy shifts. He starts to orbit again, testing the waters, trying to feel if the door is still open. But what he doesn't realize is, while he was out there entertaining options, you evolved. You're not the same girl who cried over the bare minimum. You're not sitting by the phone hoping he finally gets it. Because while he was busy being inconsistent, you were busy getting clarity. While he stayed confused, you started healing. And that's the most beautiful part of all of this. By the time he notices your absence, you've already fallen in love with your own presence. You don't respond the same. You don't react. You don't get butterflies anymore. You get boundaries. And when he tries to come back, not out of love, but out of missing the version of you that was convenient, you simply don't care anymore. Not in a bitter, revenge-driven way, but in a calm, healed, peaceful kind of way. The kind of, I wish you well, but I've moved on energy that comes from real growth. The kind of detachment that doesn't need closure because you became the closure. And that's the shift right there. You stopped seeing him as the prize. You realized the pain wasn't from losing him. It was from betraying yourself for someone who was never emotionally ready for you in the first place. That's why it doesn't hit the same when he finally shows up, because now you've outgrown the version of yourself that would have let him back in. You're no longer impressed by crumbs. You've tasted peace. And chaos doesn't taste good anymore. You don't crave the attention of someone who only saw your value after losing access to it. You crave consistency, alignment, depth, and you give those things to yourself first. That's what makes you powerful now. And let's be real, he notices that too. He sees that glow, that peace, that softness that now has boundaries, that version of you that no longer tries to prove her worth. She knows her worth. That's what he missed out on. Not just your presence, but the opportunity to grow alongside someone who would have gone all in for him. But the story doesn't end with him realizing it too late. The story ends with you realizing it right on time. So when he starts to notice, you don't need to explain. You don't need to entertain it. You don't need to go backwards, because the version of you who once settled for less, she's gone. And the woman standing in her place, she's not asking to be chosen. She chooses herself. Every time. This part right here, it's the most important. Rebuilding your self-worth, not just pretending you're okay, not just posting selfies and calling it healing, but truly, deeply reconnecting with the woman you were before they made you forget who you are. This is the slow, beautiful, powerful journey back to yourself. Let's be real, being in a relationship where you are treated like an option leaves scars. It chips away at your self-esteem little by little. Every unanswered text, every broken promise, every time he made you feel like you were too much for simply wanting to be chosen. It creates this quiet belief that maybe you're not enough, that maybe love will always hurt, that maybe it's safer to settle than to risk being alone. But let me remind you of something. Your worth was never determined by his ability to see it. Just because someone couldn't love you properly doesn't mean you are unlovable. It means they were not equipped to hold what you had to give. And that's not your fault. It never was. So how do you rebuild that inner confidence, that unshakable self-worth? You do it gently. You do it daily. You do it step by step. Start by becoming intentional with how you speak to yourself. Catch the inner dialogue. Of course, he didn't choose me, or I'm always too much, or I should have tried harder. Pause. Replace that with truth. I showed up with love. I was loyal. I was honest. That is not weakness, that is strength. The way you speak to yourself becomes the way you feel about yourself. So be kind, be patient, be protective. Next, start honoring your boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. If you say you're done, mean it. If you say you deserve better, stop entertaining the same cycles dressed up in different people. Self-worth grows when you become your own safe space, when you stop betraying your own needs just to feel temporary validation. Then, reconnect with your passions, your joy, your creativity. Remember the things that made you feel alive before that relationship consumed your energy. Go back to your art, your music, your goals, your books, the friends who saw the real you. Start showing up for you the way you used to show up for him. Also, don't rush the process. There's no timeline on healing. Some days you'll feel powerful, other days you'll miss him and wonder if you made the right choice. That's okay. Grief is not linear, but each day you choose yourself, even in small ways, you're rebuilding and you're reinforcing the belief that you deserve love that doesn't hurt, that doesn't leave you guessing, that feels safe, true, soft, and mutual. And perhaps the most underrated part of rebuilding self-worth, learning to receive. Let the right people love you. Let your friends pour into you. Let yourself be supported. You don't have to prove or earn care. You just have to believe you're worthy of it. The day you fully realize your worth is the day your entire world starts to shift. You walk differently, speak differently. You no longer chase, beg, or shrink. You understand that your presence is a privilege, and anyone who doesn't recognize that doesn't belong in your space. So keep going. Rebuilding doesn't happen overnight, but every step you take back to yourself, that's a victory. That's the glow up. Not just the outer one, the real one, the one no one can take from you. Because the woman who rebuilds her self-worth after it's been torn down, she becomes unbreakable. And the next time love enters her life, it'll have to rise to meet her. Now, let's talk about the moment everyone waits for. The glow up, not the one where you just get your hair done, post a fire pic and wait for him to slide back in. No, I'm talking about the real glow up. The one that happens deep within, the one that doesn't need an audience, the one they didn't see coming, and honestly, didn't deserve to witness. Because the truth is, when someone treats you like an option, they expect you to stay small. They expect you to stay hurt. They expect you to always be there, waiting, checking, hoping they change. They never expect you to outgrow the version of you that accepted their bare minimum. But that's exactly what you did. Your glow up started the moment you stopped explaining yourself. When you stopped trying to prove your worth to someone who never truly saw you. When you let go, not out of anger, but out of peace. That's when everything began to shift. They didn't see the late nights you cried in silence. They didn't see you rebuilding your confidence piece by piece. They didn't see you learning to fall back in love with yourself even when the world tried to make you believe you were too much, too emotional, too intense. They didn't see your healing, but they'll feel the results of it. Because your glow up isn't just about how you look. It's about how you carry yourself. It's the way your energy changes when you no longer seek validation. It's the way you walk into a room, not needing to be seen, but knowing you're worth being noticed. It's the power in your silence, the peace in your presence, the confidence in your standards. You're no longer that girl who settled for breadcrumb love. You're the woman who knows she's the whole meal, and not everyone deserves a seat at your table, especially not the one who took you for granted, only to realize too late what he lost. The best part? You didn't glow up to make him jealous. You didn't do it to prove anything to anyone. You did it for you, for your healing, for your future, for the version of you who once begged to be chosen, who now chooses herself every damn time. And while he might watch from a distance, liking a post here, sending a "you look good" DM there, it no longer moves you. Because when you truly glow up, you no longer seek closure, revenge, or even recognition. You just live fully, freely, unapologetically. He might think he still has a chance, that maybe you'll entertain him again, but what he doesn't understand is that the version of you who wanted him so badly, she no longer exists. You've evolved. You've elevated. You've embodied everything he overlooked. And no, he doesn't get a front row seat to your rebirth. He doesn't get to experience this healed, glowing, powerful version of you because he chose to fumble you when all you wanted was love. And now he can watch from the sidelines like everyone else who underestimated you. So hold your head high. Post that picture because you love it. Go after those dreams because they're yours. Set those boundaries because you deserve peace. Love yourself so loudly, so fiercely, that no one ever makes you question your worth again. This is your era, your comeback, your glow up, and guess what? It's just the beginning. Because when a woman finally realizes who she is, there's no going back, and there's no stopping her. And if you made it this far, girl, I need you to hear me when I say this. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You are a woman who is learning to love herself louder than the people who failed to love her right. And that is everything. This journey from being treated like an option to becoming the main character in your own life is not easy, but it's worth it, because once you rise from this, you'll never shrink again for anyone. If this video spoke to your heart, helped you see things clearer, or gave you that push to keep going, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button so more women like you can find this message. Subscribe if you want real, raw, empowering relationship advice that actually helps you heal and level up. And tell me in the comments, what part of your glow up are you most proud of so far? Let's hype each other up. This space is for us. Remember, he may have made you feel like you weren't enough, but the truth is he was never ready for someone like you. Your healing is the revenge. Your peace is the glow up. Your self-love is the real flex. Until next time, keep choosing you. Always.